All right, so we're going to give it a couple of seconds and we're live. Welcome back, everyone. We are now at season 2 of the Level Up Your Wealth podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Marcus Howard. This podcast is powered by the gamers at Stoned Ape. If you click on the link that you see at the bottom, bit.ly/stone_esports, you can get 20% off of their nootropics. And we have Shane here to tell us a lot more about that. But before we do that, Mario, please introduce yourself to the group.
Shane, I need some help. I'm like a wannabe vegan, man. I'm a wannabe vegan. But Mario Payne here, beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, where the sun is shining and it rains every single day. But just happy to be here. Happy to talk to Shane, my Army battle buddy, right? So love to have a conversation about that and also the vegan snack that he has.
Well, it's great to meet. I didn't even realize that. Were you in the Army also?
Yes. Of course. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I was not, but thank you both for your service.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how long you were in the military, and then we'll jump into a round of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, so my name is Shane. Started my career off in the Army when I had no idea what I wanted to do. I actually met 2 of my co-founders in the Army. We were all 3 freshmen at West Point together, and we've been the closest of friends for going on 22 years at this point. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, just didn't know what that idea was going to be. When I got out of the military, worked in finance for a little bit, and then really was an entrepreneur for the rest of my career, starting back in 2012 or so. Spent most of that time working in technology though. And that was when I really started getting exposed to the idea of, esports in particular. And it's more of a recent phenomenon than anything. But, the last 6 years or so, I've been one of 4 people who've led a company called Weaver. And, our entire company had backgrounds in gaming. And, when we started Stoned Ape, which I'll get to in a second, the team and I were thinking, who are the athletes of the future? And, what is the most accessible sport? Simultaneously, mental health has always been a huge priority for us. I myself have experimented with countless, supplements, pharmaceuticals, even just to get that edge. As an entrepreneur, you're constantly trying to squeeze the greatest amount of performance out of your mind, really. But, things like Ritalin, Adderall, they're effective, but what cost do they come at? So when we were starting Stoned Ape a few years back, we were thinking, what segment of the market is really not being addressed? What are we really passionate about? And where do we think the future of, not just athletics, but, sports in general lies? And that's what really led us to, come to the formulation that we've got now and think about what market do we really want to try to help out?
Yeah, I took some Adderall when I was in college just to get that edge as well. I had to remember the economics teacher. I think I skipped basically every day of the class except for the test days. And so I would take Adderall to catch up on all of the classes that I was missing. And I would walk in late to the test because I was on the Adderall. I would finish the test before anyone else finished and then get up and leave. And I think I had some of my classmates in my dorm. The professor was asking them if everything was okay with me. I was like, well, this is just how I was, trying to get that edge. But you're right. That doesn't, just because I did it doesn't mean it was wise or healthy. So it's great to hear that you and your team are thinking about, sustainability for people in general and health in general.
And it's really kind of a vicious cycle that it puts you in when you're taking stuff like Adderall. Like I said, I think it's definitely effective, but the latter part of the day comes time to go to bed. Your heart's still racing. You're still amped up. You can't go to sleep. You get a terrible night's sleep after that. You're tired when you wake up. You want more. And it just kind of feeds into this cycle that over the long term, I think is really detrimental. And, to go back to how we started it, the very origin of what we're doing actually started with, my 4th co-founder, whose name is Naga. And he and I were, studying at grad school together. And, he came to me and he's like, I really want to start a nutrition company, but all focused on stress. And when you think of that vicious cycle of wanting to maximize the amount of energy you've got and focus and doing it at the detriment of things like sleep, it also just feeds into that stress response. So that was a huge part of what we were doing, trying to break that cycle.
So to talk about playing games and how we can break the cycle of me winning, we have a card, a rock, scissors, paper game, and I think I am Marcus. I've won with the last. Well, I lost last week. But before that, I was on the roll.
Yeah, you were on a roll. You had a streak going. I think you're 4-3.
4-3. Hopefully 5-3. Hopefully
5-3. Yeah. So he's gonna load this up. We're gonna kick off a match here. Again, for those of you who are joining us live, thank you for your support of the podcast. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We can give you shout outs on the show. And for this segment, make a bet on Mario or on Shane, and whoever picks the right winner, we'll select one of the right winners, and they'll win a digital copy of of Mario's book and my book. So let's get your bets in now here in the comments. We'll get this match loaded up, and may the odds be ever in whoever's favor the person who wins.
All right, so you ready, Shane? So you can't look at my screen though, so you have to look at your other screen. I mean, us Army people, we don't cheat or anything, but
All right, let's do it. So Marcus, you got to give us the cue.
Okay, so we're ready to go, Shane. So you're matched up. You just pick your card, and then Mario will pick his, and it's first to 10 points.
First to 10. Okay, all right. So playing a game like this, why would the nutrition supplements that you guys provide be so helpful just in a game of rock, scissors, paper?
Is that question for me?
Of course, yes.
It is.
What was the question? I'm distracted by the rock, paper, scissors.
No, so tell me why, from a supplement standpoint, just playing a regular game like rock, scissors, paper, why would that be important to use your supplements to get the edge?
Well, one of the things that we, really tried to address is just this. We want to create the feeling of, we call it calmed wakefulness and focus, right? It's, really thinking about things like reaction time, precision, but endurance also. We're not looking for these extreme peaks where you feel, extreme highs and then followed by extreme lows. This is one of the reasons why, we talk about, personas like gamers, right? Like I've worked in and around the gaming industry, and when milliseconds count, you care about these things.
So we're tied up right now. Looks like Shane is running on a streak a little bit here.
Yes, he is. I need to slow Shane down. So Shane, what was your MOS?
31 Romeo.
Okay.
How about you?
I was a 71 Lima, certified paper pusher. So even doing Operation Enduring Freedom, all the troops were in Iraq. We was actually in Kuwait at Camp Doha, doing the financial piece of the DD-214. So
nice. So how long were you in?
Yeah, so I did 5 years altogether. So from 2000 to 2005. Oh, match point! I gotta concentrate, Shane. Hold on, I gotta concentrate.
I know it's so hard to play and pay attention to the questions.
You had any bets in for Shane? I think everybody was super confident about Mario winning this. Let's see. Go ahead.
Myra, Derek, I disappointed y'all. Everybody else who voted for me, I was a disappointment. But no, so as I was saying, so I was in from 2000 to 2005. I was reservist, and I spent basically 3 years reserve, and then when the war started in 2003, again we was in Camp Doha, Kuwait. I did that for about a year, and then we were stateside at Fort Knox for a year as well. So
nice. So we had a lot of overlap because I was in from 2001 to 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent most of my time at Fort Lewis.
Fort Lewis. Okay. Okay. Cool. So how was West Point? Because I know you said you went to West Point, correct?
It was my best friends to this day are all still from West Point.
Really?
In fact, yeah, we met freshman year. When you're a plebe, you're basically scum of the earth. No rights. You're essentially indentured servants.
Okay.
But you know how it is when you're in the military. The sucky times is what really bring people together, that build that sense of camaraderie. It's when I first truly, understand the meaning of commiserate. But it forces you to find your people, the people that you want to be close with, the people whose values you share, the people whose backs you will have, and they'll have yours. Like the group of friends that we have literally been best friends for the last 20 plus years, and we've got a WhatsApp group, and I don't think there's a day that goes by where we're not talking to each other, and that's 20 years later. So I mean, that's that was the best thing I got out of the experience.
Yeah. And that's it. Always said that. So I was in, like I said, college when I was in the reserves, and same thing. I have friends. I went in 2000. Friends, we have a group text that we talk every day. Anywhere from sports to we did like an investment together. We bought some property all together. So definitely to your point, it's something about kind of being in that environment where like-minded people that just trying to figure it out, trying to make it just kind of grows together. So so tell us with the supplement standpoint. So I know you were kind of identifying gamers because those are athletes of the future. So what separates an athlete from a physical standpoint and a gamer from a mental standpoint?
Well, I mean, everything starts in your mind, right? And that's regardless of whether you're a traditional physical athlete or whether you sit at a keyboard. Like everything, like you are what you pay attention to, right? You are your state of mind. And that's what we were really interested in targeting. Like I mentioned, everyone on my team has experimented with countless different supplements over the years, and we found that we were taking a lot of supplements individually, various ingredients that we had experimented with, but there really weren't a lot of products that combine those together in an easy to take stack. And that's when we really started thinking, well, let's just make our own. And like I said, we've been friends for so long. We've always talked about starting a company together, and we wanted to do it in an industry in which we were knowledgeable and had a lot of passion. But to answer your question, I mean, the difference is obviously a physical one when you're talking about traditional athletes and mental athletes. But if you're not taking care of your physical health as a gamer or someone who is much more cerebral in terms of your day-to-day life, it's going to affect your mental performance too. So I actually think the separation only goes so far between the two. And even though we're talking a lot about gamers, I think the reality is anybody who cares about mental health should would be a relevant audience for us. We're by no means focusing on esports or gamers to the exclusion of traditional athletes. In fact, one of the core pillars of what we're doing is it really does all revolve around trust and quality, right? Like a big complaint that we had, looking at different products in the market is like, the supplement industry is not FDA regulated, right? So you can essentially, to some degree, put whatever you want in these things. It's not regulated by the FDA. As a consumer, that's a scary thing if you're actually taking a lot of these supplements on a day-to-day basis. Just the bioaccumulation, like you just don't know what's happening when there's been literally no sign off, on a lot of the products. That was something that we wanted to address from the get-go. And, prior to starting this company, I tried wherever possible to only take supplements that were NSF certified for sport. That's it's a certification that if you're a professional athlete, Major League Baseball, UFC, like you are not allowed to take certain supplements unless it's got that certification or something similar. So we knew from the beginning we want that because those are also audiences that we want to help, and they're not gamers at all.
So is that basically like the safeguard agency or community? Because you said it's no FDA approval. Because I see commercials like the one with like Frank Thomas and does foodie, like I see those, and I mean the marketing is incredible. I thought they were FDA approved. So no supplements whatsoever. So vitamin C, vitamin D, that's not FDA approved either.
I'll give you an example that my co-founder Naga talks about quite frequently. There was a test of mushroom supplements, I believe, on Amazon recently. Out of, I think, several hundred different mushroom supplements that were tested, something like 75% of them had absolutely zero trace of mushrooms in them at all, despite being, branded very much as a mushroom supplement, right? Yeah. So, a lot of products get by purely on marketing. I mean, the reality is every product needs to market, but, a lot of them, you have no idea whether it's mushrooms or crushed up bird feathers. I don't know, so for the NSF certification for us, which the vast majority of brands do not do because it's very expensive, it's very time consuming, it means a few important things. Number one, what is on the bottle is actually inside the bottle. If it's on the label, it's in the bottle. Two, your manufacturing facility is inspected annually. And there's also no unsafe levels of contaminants or banned substances. And and all that's verified by a third party. If you don't have that, I'm not saying that every brand that doesn't have it is not a quality supplement, because I know that that's definitely not true. But it makes it much harder if you're a serious athlete, and especially if you're, taking these things every day, to know like what exactly is going in your body.
Yeah. So from a manufacturing standpoint, most manufacturing is done in China, or is it a huge market here in the US or in Canada?
It's done. I mean, it really is done all over the place. It was very important to us to have it done locally. So our manufacturer is actually here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But I mean, ingredients are sourced all over the place.
Right.
And of course, a lot of brands do source from overseas because it's just cheaper.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the stack? And if you don't mind, I'll share the screen. Yeah. So that people understand your philosophy of the balance of what you're bringing to the market. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
And then again, anybody, if you're joining in now, feel free to let us know if you have any questions for Mario related to wealth management or financial literacy, or for Shane about nutrition in general.
And Jerry Singer said, "You are your state of mind." So accurate. So true. So true. What's the? I'm thinking about marketing standpoint. It's called Nugentics. Whatever. I mean, doesn't matter. They're not you guys, but it's like the tagline that they always use from a marketing standpoint. It's pretty genius. You guys have a tagline?
A tagline. We have many. The one that's on the website is Consciousness Evolved.
Okay.
And if you know it's very much tied to the story behind the brand, which I know can be interpreted as a controversial name. I mean, do you want me to tell the story about the brand so the tagline actually makes sense?
Heck yeah,
please.
So Stoned Ape comes from you can argue it's a wacky theory. I have no idea if the theory is true, but it comes from a theory. It comes from a theory called. What's that?
When somebody says stoned, I think about something different.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there was this theory put forth by a guy named Terence McKenna, and he was a professor at Harvard many years ago. And he came up with this theory that the primary catalyst behind the evolution of the modern day, human brain was primates eating magic mushrooms over millennia. And he claims that it was the molecules in those mushrooms that really led to the expansion of human consciousness. And, regardless of whether you believe, in the theory itself, what really resonated with us was the idea that what you put in your body really does impact how you show up in the world. Secondly, if evolution in any sense, particularly in terms of growth, is inevitable, you should be very deliberate about how you impact that evolution. And, finally, we don't we consider what we've made a very serious product, but we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. Right. So for those reasons, we love the name, but I realize that if you come to the website, if you hear about the product, the first implication is it's stoned. There are no drugs, there are no mushrooms in the product. But back to the tagline, consciousness evolved. It's really all about that, notion of, evolution, just in terms of personal growth, I think, more than anything.
Okay.
You did a better job with the tagline "Consciousness Evolved" than what I immediately thought of was "Get Stoned."
That is funny. So so tell me about the energy, the zen, and the dream.
Yeah. So, we talked about this this vicious cycle that is very easy to get in, especially when you're taking pharmaceuticals. But in a nutshell, Zenergy, Zen, and Dream are natural alternatives to Ritalin, Ambien, Xanax. And we design them very carefully to correspond essentially to the body's natural circadian rhythm. So you've got something to take if you're a morning person, or, whenever you wake up, whenever you need that jolt of energy, that's Zenergy. Zen, we design more as an all-day solution. I myself take it closer to the end of the day. I've done my workout, I've done my work. I want to slow down a little bit after having, had that full day. And then Dream is really all about recovery. And it's a sleep aid. We call it a PM nootropic because we've included other ingredients that are good for things like, neuroprotection, long-term brain health, recovery, stress. But you really can't think of them as natural alternatives to those three pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
That PM nootropic, does it have like an onset of drowsiness? So like if I had a glass of that like before this show, would I be asleep before the show ends, or how does that work?
It is definitely not like Ambien and going to knock you out. The one thing that I always tell people is like no pill is going to solve all your problems, including ours, right? Like you really have to combine any sort of nutritional regimen, supplemental regimen with just healthy behavioral practices. Like you can't expect to, only get 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night and expect it to work wonders. That said, we just launched 2 weeks ago. Obviously, we've got a lot of contacts in the military. One of our friends in Delta Force, which is essentially special forces in the military, started taking it. The very next day, he sent us a screenshot of his Oura Ring statistics, which is a sleep monitor and fitness wearable.
Yeah.
And he said, I just got the best night's sleep that I've had in months. And wow. he showed us his sleep score over time, and you can see that it was hovering around like 60% or whatever. And then it totally spiked the very first day that he took it. Now, can I say that that's all a result of taking Dream? No, because I'm sure there were plenty of other behavioral factors and, other things that were at play. But he was excited enough to send in, those screenshots of real data showing, what he thought to be a real effect. So, we certainly stand behind the ingredients. We've also included some ingredients in here that you can really only find in high-end sleep aids. Venetron is one of those ingredients. And we are the only NSF certified for sport product in the entire world that contains Venetron. And it's been shown to be very effective at, as a sleep aid.
That's interesting. So for me, I have sleep apnea. I actually use a CPAP machine. Great sleep. So for a person who doesn't want to use a CPAP machine, just has sleep apnea, you think taking the Dream will help them get a better night's sleep as well, to have the REM kick in where they really get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, I think it will play a part. I would never claim that any pill is going to solve all your problems. Of course. But I'd be willing to stand behind that. I mean, every person on our team takes all three of these products, and we're a new company, but we've been very pleased with the results. And the guy that I mentioned is actually not the only person that sent us in feedback. We've had several people. One guy told us, he's like, I'm gonna have to buy another pack already. It was like 2 or 3 days into him buying his first stack of all three. He says, I'm gonna have to buy another pack already because my wife has stolen mine. So, the feedback is positive, but I think, with any business, everything is iterative. We're gonna listen to feedback. We're gonna see how people feel. And then, if we need to tailor the formula, But, we did a ton of research before we started this company. We looked at what other companies, included. Obviously, we considered the things that we've taken ourselves, and every ingredient in each one of these formulas we've taken personally before. So, from purely from an individual ingredient perspective, we've had years of experience taking them with pretty good effects. It's why we wanted to formulate these in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so from a industry standpoint, and we'll definitely get back to Cody specific, but just from an industry standpoint, how big is a supplement industry? Is it a multi-million-dollar industry? Is it a billion-dollar industry? And kind of what type of specialization or footprint you think you can make in the industry as a whole?
Well, it's definitely a multi-billion-dollar industry. I can tell you that. Okay. One of the considerations that we had when Naga first came to me and said he wanted to start this company was, is it too crowded of a marketplace? There are a lot of supplement brands out there. A lot of them do quite well. But what encouraged us to proceed again was, in our estimation, a lack of true quality products. And my partner Naga says this all the time. One of the missions of starting Stoned Ape was to bring the rigor of the pharmaceutical industry to the supplement industry. And there are other companies that I think do this really well. I really admire the company Thorne. There's other companies that I really admire, like Pure Encapsulations, but they don't offer the type of supplements that we're looking at here that are formulated the way we formulated them. And when we first started the company, there were literally 0 other nootropics that had the NSF Certified for Sport certification. So it's a very big industry. It's a very commoditized industry. But our mission is to try to make an impact because we're focusing at the very top end of the spectrum when it comes to quality and trust. Because I think there's, unfortunately, a lack of those types of products in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. So with the industry that big and so many feet to the fire, per se, people trying to grow and scale, what do you think sets you guys apart?
We've talked about it a little bit, but the trust factor.
Okay.
That by far, I think that is our distinguishing factor. We are not going to sell something that we ourselves will not put into our body. Just period. We never would.
Okay.
We came at this from the perspective as consumers. We wouldn't sell something that we wouldn't take ourselves as customers. We also want to have fun though. We didn't want to put out a bottle that looked like a very generic or medical product. That's why we kind of leaned into this sort of ridiculous and controversial name. One of the things we talk about is our name is controversial. Our ingredients are very much not. Right. So, but I think in the future, there's a number of other products that we've been researching, which I won't say now. But we do plan on expanding our product offering, but we really want to get the initial stack right. And we want to make sure that people love it.
And so this is a vegan option. So how was that conversation, the decision-making process to make this vegan instead of, not non-vegan? How was that discussion? And how did you guys come to that decision?
Yeah. Well, none of us are vegan.
One second. Can you share the definition of vegan and how that's different from vegetarian?
Vegan is absolutely 0 animal products. And I can give you countless reasons why, philosophically, environmentally, people should be vegan. I think it's one of, and this is probably a controversial statement for a lot of people, it's one of the best things you can possibly do for your health. I'd estimate at least 75% of my own meals are vegetarian or vegan. But I like meat. I like sustainably, farmed and cultivated and raised meat. I have big issues with the, industrial, the way we treat animals. Yeah. That's part of the motivation, but honestly, it more has to do with inclusivity. We don't want someone to be turned off by our products because, they're vegan or keto, which our products are also keto, because we've got some trace amounts of, ingredient, not even just in the ingredients or the formulation itself, but in the capsules, right? So, it's really about inclusivity, making sure as many people who want to take it can, regardless of what their diet is.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you guys are in a big industry, but you want to have a niche, and that niche is the vegan way, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's less about vegan and more about being accessible to people regardless of what their diet is.
Okay.
And also if you just look at the trends, more and more people are deciding to, if they're not going vegan, they're going vegetarian, or they've got some diet, and we don't want to turn those people off.
Yeah. I would say probably for like the last 4 years, I have probably been either vegan or vegetarian probably for like 2 years, like off and on. Just and for whatever reason, like we can't stick to it. It's like it's something with like glazed salmon or barbecue chicken that just gets me coming back every single time.
The funny thing is when I first met my wife almost 10 years ago, she had not eaten a single bite of meat for I think 7 years. And then, I think a year or two into our relationship, that totally changed. She started eating red meat. Now she is the one who's telling me, I really want a steak tonight. So I'll make her a steak. Now I'm the one in the family that's encouraging us to eat less meat. And she was a pure vegan before we met.
I think I'm the guilty person. My wife, she's it's like tofu's every day for her, but then she cooks for me and she takes a bite here or there. So my bad, babes, my bad. But yeah, that's interesting. So like from a scaling standpoint, I know you guys are new to the industry. You of course been using your own supplements, but new to the industry. So what does the company look like a year from now, 3 years, 5 years from now?
Yeah.
And then second question from a marketing standpoint, is it more word of mouth? Or are you trying to get it with the military to kind of help that way with your background? Is it more Instagram, guerrilla marketing, where you're doing a lot of advertisements? What does that look like to scale?
Yeah, well, I'll take the questions in reverse order. I mean, the military community it just holds a special place in our entire team's hearts. I mean, like so much of our, identity is tied to being in the military and the experience that we had there. And, obviously mental health issues are an issue in that community. That's not why we started, but, to the extent we can make a tiny dent in that, we'd like to. So obviously it's a really important community for us just in terms of, getting exposure. We're a young company. We're all self-funded. We intentionally did not go out and try to raise a bunch of venture capital money because we wanted to do things with a high degree of integrity, and not be influenced to make a lot of bad decisions, because everything came down to shaving the most, cost or getting the most margin out of everything. So that means we got to be creative with what we're doing and how we grow and, the communities we reach out to. But for us, the military community is very organic because that's where we came from. Right. So of course, that's a important priority for us. And we've got a lot of enthusiastic friends who've been just phenomenally supportive. I mentioned a couple who sent us in, screenshots of their result. I think the holy grail of any marketing is word of mouth, Okay. And I think for us, it means leaning very heavily on networks that we've got extensive connections in. But it also really means, living up to the expectations that we set. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. Okay. If we tell you that you're going to love our product and you don't, send it back, we'll refund it, right? Like literally everything about what we're doing is all based on trust. And I know talk is cheap, but I think to make people happy, you have to deliver on your promises. We've talked about esports and gamers. That's obviously an important community for us because I don't see a lot of, nutritional companies really paying attention to that community. I think they are increasingly so, but, when the most popular, I wouldn't even call it a supplement, but when the most popular products are things like Code Red and Mountain Dew, there's an opportunity for us to give you something that, could approximate the same, level of impact, but without all the sugar. There's no sugar in anything that we made intentionally. There's no flavor. We talked about gummies. We'll probably release some gummies at some point in the future. I didn't want to at first because I just don't want to eat the stuff that's inside them.
Right.
So, a year from now, hopefully we're still in business. I think we very much will be based on how things are going now. People are loving the product. And, we definitely want to roll out some new products. And I think most of the new products that we come out with in the near future will still be focused on mental health, different aspects of mental health. 5 years from now, we want to have a much broader suite of products to offer, and products that are, span the spectrum of, nutrition.
Okay. And gaming specifically. So what type of
Sorry, what did you say, Marcus?
It's a little wonky here. I was gonna say, isn't Naga? Doesn't he have a degree in nutrition?
Yeah. So Naga and I met. We were in grad school at Stanford. Together, and we were both doing an MBA. And he was doing a joint program in food science.
That's cool.
Sorry to interrupt.
And then No. That's a great question. Stanford. Just go ahead and drop that on us right there. Stanford. Okay. Roll that back. How was life and time at Stanford, being around so many entrepreneurs, like-minded people? How was that experience, and how do you think that allowed you to kind of be here to create your own company?
Stanford was great. I mean, the people there they're phenomenal. And, I was doing a MBA program there, which is obviously business focused. But I think one of my favorite things about the Stanford community is that it's not just a bunch of bankers and consultants, which I have zero issue with. I was a banker at one point in my life. It is a very diverse crowd. And I mean that in the broadest sense possible. There's, I think, something like 30% of the class or 40% of the class were former engineers. You've got Navy SEALs, you got a lot of military people like myself. You've got people who are entrepreneurs. You've got, people who are former professional athletes. It's a very diverse group of people. And I think 40% of the class is international. And the best thing about it is there's a kind of an unspoken rule. And I don't know if this is the same for, all the other MBA programs, but at Stanford, if an alumni reaches out to you, you always respond. You always respond. And I love that. And I found that very much to be the case for myself. I also met my wife at Stanford. So maybe the best thing to come out of it.
There we go. Clean it up, Shay. Clean it up. So how was that experience? Because, like you're in a room of like just super, super smart individuals. Like, was it intimidating at time, or how did you feed off of that?
The people's level of sheer intellectual horsepower is definitely very noticeable, and it can be intimidating. I remember hearing a story from a friend who said that when she was touring the school before she had gotten in, she was with another girl who was on the same tour, and the girl had to go into the restroom, and she started crying because she felt so intimidated by, the class, which maybe paints a bad picture. That was not my experience at all. I think it can be overwhelming, especially when you start to hear people speak, because it's a very interactive environment. You're not just listening to lectures sitting in your seat. Like, you are expected to participate. And when you hear the things that come out of people's mouths and how thoughtful they are, you really aren't in it. You really realize that you're in an environment that, if you let it, it will truly elevate you.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, you don't have to worry about being the smartest room with the smart person in that room, because there's probably a lot of smart people. So
but you mentioned the startup thing at one point. And sorry, I've been losing my voice all day, if you can't tell. But one of the funny things I remember is the dean of the school. I can't remember if it was first or second year. They put out a notice to the entire student body at the business school saying, "Stop working on your startups. Do your homework. Do your homework."
That's funny.
And I think that is somewhat unique to Stanford because, it's right in Silicon Valley. It's got a reputation for startups. You get a lot of people go there because they want to start a business. And I have a lot of classmates who've started very successful businesses now. So it's a great community.
Yeah, and to that point, from a connection standpoint, since you are right smack in Silicon Valley, you probably have all the angel investors and VCs that you ever want to meet.
Yeah. Well, they come to class. Some of them teach the classes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. All right, so back to gaming though, right? So again, we talked about 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. From a gaming standpoint in particular, what are some of the initiatives and what are the marketing things that you guys are going to get into to really focus on gaming and gamers in general?
Well, sponsorships is the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. There are a few teams, which I won't name, but there are a few specific teams in various leagues who have made a point to talk about things like mental health. They represent what I think is a perfect partnership, just purely based on, interest level in that space. But we're under no illusion that this is going to happen fast. It's all about selecting. It's the same with hiring people. You build a strong nucleus and you build out from there gradually. I view the same thing in terms of marketing and partnerships. So sponsorships will be, big for us coming up pretty soon. We'll be attending a few different expos. We're going to go to one called MCon, which is not a gaming expo. It's more of a military convention. But there are several gaming conferences that we'll be showing up to. And then of course, working with, doing influencer marketing. Nowadays, you really can't, grow a business on social media without having people talk, about what you're doing. So that'll certainly be a part of, our strategy.
Right. Okay. Influencers. And Marcus, you can chime on this because I know from a esports standpoint, I know like the teams are not as what they were. So how do you think that marketing thought will connect with gaming teams?
I think that there's a strong opportunity. Great question. Strong opportunity to do rev share with the teams. I think in the past we have seen in esports is a bunch of brands say, "Hey, I'm gonna, for lack of a better example, pick on FaZe Clan. Hey, we have 500 million people in our aggregate audience, so you should sign us this 7 or 8 figure sponsorship deal for 2 years." And then may or may not deliver on that deal once they've already gotten the check. And I think that unfortunately a lot of brands have been burned in the process.
Yeah.
So I think a rev share opportunity aligns interest and goals, right? If they want to generate revenue, then they need to get to work making value for the brands who put their dollars into sponsor. So maybe some lower amount of initial sponsorship and then rev share, I think is what the industry needs. To put more responsibility and accountability back on the esports organization.
Yeah, and we've heard some of those horror stories, which makes us, very much want to take kind of a, measure twice, cut once type of approach. Like we're not interested in growing at all costs. It's really about finding the right people who share your values, and you can trust to live up to their end of the bargain. And I think that just takes time to do.
Yeah. And the other piece of that, the other part of that is that smaller organizations have, I guess, counterintuitively stronger relationships with their community because it's not just like a number on an accounting sheet, right? So if you have a community of 30, 40, 50, 100,000 people, there's a chance that the individuals in that organization know and interact with on a daily basis some of those individuals, even if it's a subset of that. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 out of 100,000.
Yeah.
You've got 500 million, right? Like you just basically, it's just on a sheet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What are, so like, I know we see like a lot of tournaments, right? So percentage wise, how many participants you think are taking supplements like Adderall, for instance, in the gaming tournament?
It's hard for me to get. I mean, it would be a total wild ass guess, and I don't want to throw out something that I really have no idea. But anecdotally, I've read countless reports and articles that say that it is rampant in the industry. I know some leagues have started to drug test for it.
Really?
That's what I've heard.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen some issues in the Call of Duty League about that, and I
Yeah.
imagine that it would be even more like prevalent in a game like what am I thinking of? League of Legends, where like number of key entries per second matter.
Yeah.
Well, you probably see more and more use in that.
I mean, you probably know better than anyone, down to the, your keyboard. People are buying, equipment because it's got, it's milliseconds faster than others, right? So people do care about, those edges, however slight they may be, but for me, it also goes back to the certification, right? So like, if these gaming leagues do start to implement similar restrictions, particularly around things like drug testing, we want to be a reliable source that you can go to because it's got the mark that traditional, professional sports leagues count on.
There's probably a lot of potential there as well. As we talk about esports trying to become a mainstay at the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that the esports space has been clamoring for years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've long been a believer that just that set of skills it's not gonna stop becoming relevant in the future. Like on the contrary, it's gonna become even more relevant. I mean, in the military, like think about how much is done behind a computer now, and how much more will be done behind a computer in the future.
Yeah, no, that's true. Nah, definitely. How wars, quote unquote, are won are a lot different now than what they were when me and you joined the military 20 years ago. Nevertheless, World War I, World War II. So imagine combat 5 years from now, 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah.
And who do you think they're going to recruit? People who are familiar with the technology. They've got the the muscle memory of being able to fly a plane virtually or a drone or whatever it is. So I feel like obviously the industry is already very big, but I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And there will come a time where the rules and regulations become standardized, and people, will want products that they can actually trust because of things like drug testing or whatever it is, or because they just care about their health in general.
Yeah. So as I circle back from Stanford, I have to ask. So we was around Silicon Valley, all the smarties of the smarties. What was the hot stock that was permeating through the classroom in Stanford? What was the hot stock that you
hot stock? Well, I had several friends who started to get into Bitcoin at that time. That was 2014. So in my crowd, I think it was probably crypto more than anything. Have you held on to that crypto now? I mean, you've done pretty well, I would say.
Pretty well. Well, I gotta share my screen, and we talk about crypto. So I'm definitely cause as you know, CFP have my own RA. I actually have my own index fund on the market. Symbol LETB. Y'all can check it out if y'all want to. But I tell people though, for the future, I definitely think crypto is going to be Bitcoin specifically, because we have bad coins and good coins. Yeah. Bitcoin is the point of all coin. It's like the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. It's definitely Bitcoin. But to your point though, in 2014, the person bought Bitcoin, even with the drop. I mean, look at that. That's over a 5,000% return over a 10-year time period. Like, ain't no stock doing that. Now, of course, we have a long, bumpy road, right? Because we was up as high as, look at that, was up almost 14,000. So it dropped.
Yeah, down. But look at all those peaks and troughs. You zoom out far enough, and look, I'm personally a believer too. I'm a holder.
Yeah.
Hodl.
So I definitely love me some Bitcoin. So is that some type of space you think eventually you guys are going to take payments in? I mean, now of course you're taking payments cash and Apple Pay and all that fun stuff. But you think
we were gonna launch with the ability to pay in Bitcoin, but everything's iterative. You're constantly adding new things. I'd love to see us do that at some point. Like now, it's been a little scary because the price has been so volatile. But I'm a big believer in it. You know, a lot of folks on my team are big believers in it. Just philosophically, I want the industry to succeed. You know, if you care about things like privacy, if you care about things like self-sovereignty, I think you should want that industry to succeed. Unfortunately, you know, people like SBF shit in the pool, you know, and it turns a lot of other people off because they just associate crypto with, you know, get rich quick schemes and scams, which is really not what it is at its core, and nor is it why it started.
Yeah, yeah, and Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX has had a huge bad shadow on that as well. So So talk about that. How many other companies, no names of course, but in the supplement space, how many companies are taking payments via Bitcoin specific? So you think that you guys will be leading in that, or do other companies do that already?
Well, I want to be clear. This is not a promise that we're going to do it, because I'm only one of the people on the team. If it were purely up to me, you know, we'd do it. I think it's more than anything, it's a function of just having a very long list of things to do. How many other companies are doing it? I would bet very little, especially now. You know, in the bull market, I'm sure everybody was thinking about it, but I also, like, as fervent of a believer in Bitcoin as I am, and I literally buy some every day. You know,
you are a believer in.
I also, well, Marcus knows I'm involved in the industry. I have a DAO that only invests in, you know, well, I shouldn't say only, but we invest in a lot of Web3 projects.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily see Bitcoin as a, you know, like a medium of exchange the way I would, you know, something like USDC, because the price is so volatile. I view it more as like a, you know, store of value than anything, to put it in economic terms. You know, like, I'm going to buy and hold it, but I don't want to pay for stuff with it because the swings in value are just so extreme right now.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So 5 years from now, you think what's going to be more successful, Bitcoin or ETH, with what's going on with Web3?
So I'm a big believer in both. And this is not financial advice.
Yeah. I was going to find financial planner. I ain't giving no advice on the internet.
Standard crypto disclaimer, which I haven't seen a lot on Twitter because everyone's talking about AI now. If you twisted my arm and forced me to choose one, I'd probably choose Bitcoin, just because, you know, it's got the belief, you know, more than anything. And I think that's what any currency must have. And it's the OG crypto project, you know, where most of the interesting things happening. You know, there's ordinals happening in Bitcoin, which is very controversial for a number of reasons, but Ethereum is really an ecosystem. It's just so much more than a coin, you know, and I think that is really interesting and compelling. And I know a lot of teams personally that are building on the Ethereum chain, but they've also got a lot of competition from other, you know, purpose-built blockchains. So if you force me to choose one, and I'm just thinking, where can I park my money and not worry about it ever again? And I had to choose one, probably Bitcoin, but they're also totally different. So it's, you know, in some respects, it's apples to oranges.
That makes sense. I noticed on your logo, and I don't know if this was intentional or happenstance.
Everything on the logo is intentional.
Okay. It looks like the buttons on a gaming controller.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. You know, we talked about this earlier. I think that there's going to be a major push for teams not wanting to burn out their players, so they can, you know, get more value from their investment into the players. And we even seen evil geniuses, you know, in the last year, reports from players just kind of burned out because of being pushed too hard and probably poor diet, poor just health and wellness regimen as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, burnout is real, you know, and that again, that's why I think no pill, including ours, is going to solve all your problems. And I think the key to avoiding burnout, really, more than anything, comes down to your daily regimen and how you're treating your body. You know, like, I'm a huge fitness fanatic. I'm really big on nutrition. It's all of those things together. I think that more than anything influences your state of mind. In fact, you could do all those things and never take, supplements like what we've designed, and I think live a really happy and focused and fulfilled life. Our team wants that, extra edge, because I do think we've read the research reports, and not only that, but when we formulated our products, we looked at what the competitors were doing. We looked at all the ingredients that they included. We looked at the research, and it's like, okay, for this ingredient, the clinical research says it's effective when it's like 300 milligrams or above. You look at the competitor, it's advertising that ingredient, and it's like 25 milligrams, right? So like for us, you have to take them in the appropriate doses, which we were very careful to do. But with burnout, it really is a holistic thing that you've got to do. Are you sleeping well? Are you focusing on the right things? We talked about like you are what you focus on. Are you focusing on negative thoughts, positive thoughts? Like that impacts you just as much as anything you could take as a supplement, So with burnout, like you just got to do the basic things first, I think, And I've read reports of plenty of, people dealing with issues, and it's not just gaming, by the way. Like as an entrepreneur, a lot of my peers who run their own companies face the same thing. They don't think about the longevity of the experience. It's like, it's not a sprint, as they say, it's a marathon, right? You gotta pace yourself.
Mario, we lost your audio. He's pantomiming here. He's some sign language. Okay, yeah, you can jump back in if that helps. Shane, do you see opportunity for this in tech environments?
Absolutely.
Where essentially like this becoming a replacement for coffee?
It certainly can be. In the Zenergy product, the AM nootropic, there's the same amount of caffeine in that product that there is in a cup of coffee. So definitely. Okay. I take both because I love coffee too much to give it up. I'll never give it up.
Yeah. And so Jerry Singh in the chat said, as someone working on a Web3 game, love hearing the discussion about crypto and Web3 overall. That's awesome. So Shane, my last question.
Oh, we lost.
I've been trying to get in retail. What's your thought? Is it better, you think, to be online and be online only, or do you think it's value in being in stores?
I definitely think there's value in being in stores. If for no other reason than, building awareness and exposure, people still go to stores. We've chosen not to do it now purely as a function of how much focus can we give every initiative we're doing, and how can we execute on every one of those initiatives with our full focus and to the best of our abilities. We've had some stores and clinics, reach out and tell us they're interested, a very small number. It's also just a totally different economic structure. Your margins are a little lower. It's good because they're buying in bulk, so you can move more product.
Yeah.
But then you also got to think about what kind of place is this that's selling the product? Do I want my brand there? I won't say the name of the big pharmacy, but one of the pharmacies we could have gotten in very early, and we made the decision not to because we just didn't think at that point in time, at such a young stage of the company, that it really simpatico with our brand, so we evaluate it, we talk about it. I think it's certainly possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we do at some point, but it'll take us some time to get there.
Yeah. And to that point, it was asked because from a margin standpoint, right? You would think it will be, not asking the business part, but it's higher margins when it's online. You get to control things compared to being in the stores. So much you're playing the volume play, but then of course you have to pay up front, and and sometimes from a scaling standpoint, it seems like you're scaling quicker in the big box stores or doing retail, but you're really not. So that's why.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're not opposed to doing it. It's just you got to plan it out. We will be launching on Amazon pretty soon.
Okay.
But like we said, the economics are just totally different. And one of the reasons why that is really relevant to us, aside from the obvious point that any business needs to make money, is that which I haven't mentioned before, is that we very deliberately, when we first started the company, thought there was an opportunity to give people the absolute best product they can get, but not have to pay for it, right? So it's high quality, medium price point, not high quality, super high price point. And I've seen a lot of products that purely from a formulation standpoint are definitely inferior to ours, and they're charging 2 or 3 times what we charge. And we just don't want to alienate people like that, like to spend, $40 on supplements is not cheap. Unfortunately, we base it on our costs. We sourced all the best ingredients, the best forms of the ingredients. I don't know if the audience, knows what bioavailability means, but there are different forms of every ingredient that you can take, like magnesium, for example. So we have a very specific form of magnesium, which has been shown to, promote a range of different health benefits. But if you read the research, magnesium bisglycinate is one of the most bioavailable forms of magnesium that you can take, which means that your body can actually absorb it a lot easier than other forms, right? So because of that, the cost is high. We don't want to pass all that cost on to the customer, but we can only do so much, So
yeah, of course.
So retail for us is like, well, I don't want to charge 60 or 70 for what we're making. I want to try to charge as little as we can.
Yeah, not totally understandable.
Shane, you talked a little bit earlier about the importance and the value of word of mouth marketing, and then you having a vision and a goal to work with some teams, and I'm asking you for the names of the teams, but can you talk a little more about trying to scale word of mouth marketing through the partnership program?
Yeah. Well, are you referring to a specific partnership program or just partnerships?
Your affiliate program.
Yeah. So that's exciting for us. We just launched an affiliate program 2 days ago. I don't know if we can paste the link here, but that is open for literally anybody to sign up for. And
if you want to paste the link into the chat here, then I can get it back over
interested, but if people are not familiar with an affiliate program, it essentially is a program in which you can sign up. In return for signing up, you get a link. If you share that link with other people and they buy, we'll give you 20% of the total revenue of the product, not the profit, of the revenue. So if it's a $100 order, you get $20 in your pocket merely for sharing the link. So that'll definitely be part of what we do. And again, it's open to anybody who wants to sign up. But we will be later this year going out and pursuing some other types of partnerships. There's some athletes that we're beginning to talk to, traditional athletes, mountain climbers, obviously gamers. We've talked about esports a lot, but we're also a small team. We're doing it all ourselves, which is the reason why we want to partner up with good people.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you have that link, I'm happy to add that into the chat.
Yeah, sure.
So that people can get access to it.
Definitely from a partnership standpoint, I think partnerships are definitely key. I mean, you can do a lot more with people in the team that help, outside people from the team to help as well, compared to doing it all in-house. So,
it's like they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not even sure where to paste.
So you're gonna
hear Marcus, but
in the private, there's a private chat here for this platform. The three of us are on, and then I can get that kicked over to LinkedIn.
It's all yours.
Thank you. All right, so I'll add that in the chat for those of you who are listening. When this goes out to the podcast platforms tomorrow, where you won't be able to see the link in the LinkedIn chat, or if you're on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the other channels, the website is https://af.uppromote. That's u/stoned8/register. So if you go to that website, you can register to be a part of the affiliate program. As Shane said, 20% of gross sales. So great opportunity, especially again, if you are an esports organization or a gaming organization or any kind of sports or athletic organization, school, you have close ties to your community. And your community may be customers of this product anyway. It makes sense for it to potentially be a fundraising opportunity for you.
And sorry, the URL is so complicated. We'll work on that next time.
No problem. No problem. So thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. Learn a little bit more about health and wellness, and we had crypto conversation, which is always fun. Before we go, can you do us two favors? Number one, if you'll let us know, out of the people who commented in the chat today, who would you like to win a digital copy of my book and Mario's book? And then after that, let us know how we can continue to support you, follow your success, and the company's success at large.
That's a lot of pressure. You're gonna make people hate me for not picking them, but I'm gonna go since this person Myrna was a fan of Mario for the rock paper scissors. I think she should get rewarded for her early support.
Excellent.
And then it's a toss up.
Yeah, so it's just one person. We'll send them copies of both books. So you only had to pick one person.
Yeah. Okay.
And then beyond that, where can we continue?
Jerry and Can. Sorry if I said your name wrong. Jerry. He had some great comments. He was my go-to next, but
Jerry. Okay. Well, you know what? Since we didn't have no one selected you as the winner of the rock paper scissors game, Jerry, you also win a digital copy of both books.
Well, I really appreciate it, guys. This was fun. Thanks so much for having me on, and thanks to everybody who tuned in.
Excellent. So again, before we go, if you don't mind, just a couple shameless plugs, where can people find you, follow you, support you, find the company, follow the company, support the company?
So Stoned Ape Inc. is definitely the name you want to remember. That's just Stoned Ape the way it's spelled, INC, and it's the same name across all social channels: Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Stoned Ape Inc. That's the one you want. And then if you want to find us online, it's Stoned Ape.
Excellent. And then Mario, where can people find you, follow you, support you?
Yeah, very easy. So Painful Profits, PAYNEFUL Profits. Please follow. Try to get to 11,000 followers as we keep this trend going. Of course, if you have any financial advisor information or questions that I can help with, Toms Financial, TOAMS Financial.com.
Excellent. And then if you're still watching, thank you for your support. As a reminder, if you go to https://bit.ly/stone_esports, you can get that 20% off your order of the stack. And be sure to support and follow Stoned Ape. Again, proud sponsors of this show, this episode, and the season. So thank you all for your support. We will see you next week. Our special guest is Amir Satvat, who is the LinkedIn top voice for video games. He has nearly 50,000 followers in his community, a host of resources. He's helped over the last year where there's been a 10% reduction in staff from layoffs and companies folding. His community has helped recover jobs for 5% of the community. So he's basically cut that loss in half from what we've experienced as an industry over the last year. So really excited to have that conversation. Shane, thank you again for your time. Look forward to seeing the continued success of your company. And thank you all. We'll see you next week. We can help you level up your wealth. Y'all have a great evening.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care.